There's no Nazis on this show, mister.
You're worse than Hitler.
Just do the clap. Just do the clap.
You want me to give you the clap? Okay.
Wow, that's an episode of Max Mike Movies nobody wants to see. This week on a very special after-school Max Mike Movies.
Why does it hurt when Mike pees?
Don't do that before the show.
Sorry,
idiot. Sorry. All right. Serious sub.
Okay.
There will be spoilers ahead. Lots of spoilers, so be careful, won't you?
Hello. Our name is Max Mike Movies. You killed our pony. Here's $1. Yes, for this week's entry in quotes, unquotes, and quotes, we are quotationally querying the quotidian quandary that is 1987's The Princess Bride. This is a film adapted by, and from a novel by, Hollywood legend William Goldman, and directed by Meathead. I'm Rob Reiner. I'm sorry, Mr. Reiner, sir. And I still feel the movie missed a golden opportunity by not using the novel's actual tagline, what happens when the most beautiful girl in the world meets the handsomest prince in the world, and he turns out to be a son of a bitch? But enough blathering. You want us to get started? Well, as you fish. Damn it! As you squish. Ow! Line. Nope. You know what? Never mind. Moment's ruined.
I'm not editing this.
Nope. I'm your host, Miracle Max Levine. Come on, it was right there. And over yonder is my childlike giant henchman, Mike Luce. Give us a rhyme, Mike.
Time and, saucer.
And it's right back to the orphanage you go.
Ah,
Yes, sorry, it's medical experiments for the lot of you.
I hate cruel. It's so cruel. A rhyme!
Too late, off you go.
Damn.
But before we get to our princess briding, we've got our poll question.
Poll question.
Mike asked, what is your favorite cinematic twisty-turny whodunit? Steve Harvey, noted Egyptologist, gives us Death on the Nile, naturally. Not the new one, yuck. From Dave. Gosh, too many to count. The ones that stand out are The Thin Man, The Big Sleep, The Trouble with Harry, and Murder, She Said. The first for the dialogue and Asta, the second for the hard-boiled, the third for the false scenery? That's interesting from a whodunit. And for Shirley, he means McLean, I assume. McLean! And the last, both for Margaret Rutherford and because Agatha Christie has to be on the list. That's fair. The Thin Man is probably my favorite, but not because of the twisty-turny whodunit, which is very good, no question, but because the dialogue is fantastic, William Powell and Myrna Loy have amazing chemistry, and it's a movie about drinking. All true, every word.
That's why I go to the movies, the drinking.
Adam Mark says, I won't say any of the Agatha Christie films.
Ooh.
They basically mirror the novels exactly, so I know the culprit going in. The old ones have great casts. The new ones are abhorrent. Whoa.
Ouch.
Someone has a word of the day calendar and need to be exercised from the silver screen forever. Yikes! For a strict whodunit, Knives Out is faithful to the genre and an absolutely welcome breath of fresh air. I loved it and was sorry to see it end. Well, not strictly a whodunit, I think Memento is very compelling as a mystery with a compelling twist. Guy Pearce, afflicted with no long-term memory, I guess that's how you would describe it, sets out to find the bad guy, a mysterious wrongdoer who has harmed the protagonist and his allies. With scenes artfully played in reverse order, only the viewer is allowed to see how, turn by turn, Pierce is in fact the bad guy. Oh, great, thanks for spoiling it. Who forgets his own transgressions, murder, assault, theft, and every good ally is just a manipulator or a scoundrel. I cannot think of a film that captivated me more scene by scene. Not strictly a murder mystery, but definitely appealing to mystery fans.
Wow. It sounds like an entire movie based on that old Steve Martin bit. I forgot.
Yeah, that's it. Honorable mention goes to Salt, to Angelina Jolie's story of a secret agent turned double agent turned triple agent, and who knows, seeking to stop an assassination attempt, has so many twists and turns and reveals. At one point, I just smiled and leaned back, reveling in it, and stopped trying to follow it.
Cool.
We're left with Salt running off into the woods, unsure of whom she is off to kill or to avenge or to save. Well, for all we know, she'll always be in the shadows. Love it. Much more compelling than the choir boy Jason Bourne films, which I cannot stand. Fight me! It's a crime against cinema that they never turn Salt into a franchise. Adam, now that's the Adam Mark that we know and love. None of these one-word answer things. Good to see you back, Adam. Matt Reisman says, Knives Out. It's probably the first mystery I had seen in 15 years that both thoroughly embraced the genre and felt fresh. A.J. Sheems, or Shemus.
It's Sheems.
Sheems said Primal Fear. Ooh, I never even wanted to try that one. Edward Norton is amazing in that movie, and I believe it was his first role. And The Devil's Advocate with Al Pacino as the devil. Yeah, I got to say, he makes a great devil. I never would have thought that, but...
I liked Robert De Niro better in Angel Heart. You ever see that?
Yeah, that's right. As the very subtly named Louis Cypher. Of course, Pacino's not much better as John Milton.
Oh. I get it.
Get it? Because he wrote a book.
Bonk, bonk on the head. Bonk, bonk.
Yeah, pretty much. Steve Kellner is another vote for Knives Out. Is amazing and explicitly inspired by the classic Agatha Christie films, which I think are generally better than the books for a number of reasons. I sense a Kellner-Marx fight coming up.
Oh, dear.
Not the least of which are great actors chewing scenery. I think Glass Onion is excellent, too. Some people like one but not the other, but I'm not sure why from a mystery perspective. I think both are excellent, but take different tracks. Okay. Jamie Kleinert. Snatch! We don't need to know about your weekend activities, Jamie.
Okay.
Sorry. I don't know if it's officially fits as a whodunit, but it has the twisty-turny part down pat. True indeed. Anthony Merrill says, No Way Out, and I'm leaving out the second sentence because it spoils the whole movie.
Oops.
Tony Kellner says, Knives Out and Death Trap.
Oh, Death Trap, sure.
Steve Kellner chimes in again with, Sleuth. Yeah, a two-person whodunit. That is a hell of a movie.
And there's two big names in it. Who is
Laurence Olivier and Michael Caine.
Oh, there you go.
Yep. Benjamin Carl says, I'm looking and I don't see Clue on anyone's list. Also, JFK, that's interesting. And Event Horizon, just to shake things up a bit. There's an interesting choice. I would not have thought of that one.
I wouldn't
but
either.
It works.
That's a freaky movie.
Aaron Gelman has Miller's Crossing. The Coens doing 1930s gangland is great on all levels and plenty twisty-turny. Yeah, but it's hard to watch. Meredith Gilchrist says, I often guess the ending, but Gone Girl really threw me the first time I saw it.
Neat.
Kelly Cooper says, at some point in the 1980s or 1990s, I saw the 1974 version of Murder on the Orient Express without ever having read the book, so it was a complete surprise and delight.
See our previous episode on all three versions of Murder on the Orient Express.
Anon, A-N-O-N, which 2018 was very well done. Stylish futuristic noir. I don't know that one.
Me neither.
Which reminds me of Minority Report, a science fiction mystery that I found enjoyable and complex. Yeah.
Right.
Which reminds me that I was surprised by how much I liked Edge of Tomorrow, starring Tom Cruise, which is also a twisty science fiction story, but mainly it's a repeating day problem. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that as a whodunit.
See our previous episode on
as we know
the rinse, dye, repeat.
Yeah. Which reminds me of Boss Level 2021. I don't know that one.
Me either.
Another repeating day problem that was hyper-violent but amusing, and Michelle Yeoh as a small but fabulous part.
Wait, let's just stop on that sentence. Hyper-violent and amusing.
Yeah, hey, they can be. Come on.
I don't know.
Big Trouble in Little China is hyper-violent and amusing?
No, that's not hyper-violent, because the violence in that is very cartoony, which is it should be. And there's wire fu. Whenever there's wire fu, that's not hyper-violence.
Brandon Day says, I saw someone mention Miller's Crossing, and I'll second that. I like plenty of more traditional detective mystery type films, but first thing I thought of was Christopher Nolan's The Prestige. Oh, yeah.
Sure.
A mystery about magic and magicians, full of illusions and sleight of hand, and yet the plot itself is an incredible illusion that makes you think you figured things out repeatedly when you're nowhere close, and with probably the best, most jaw-dropping, I did not see that coming reveal ever.
Poof.
Memento is great as well, and very unique. That's not a phrase, and almost gets lost in its own confusion to agree. Something is either unique or not unique.
See our previous episode. Hey, huh?
Valerie Coons, from the maven of Q Footsteps, CQ Footsteps. Most of mine have already been mentioned. Knives Out, The Big Sleep, The Maltese Falcon. I would add Murder, My Sweet. I really wish I could include The Usual Suspects, but considering the person in the starring role, I don't know if I can. Stephen the Assistant came up with a great one, Charade.
Oh, yeah.
Richard Tatum, inventor of the Tatum.
One week you need to tell us what a Tatum is.
You
don't know.
I can't tell you. You don't have high enough clearance.
You don't know.
He brings in. I totally do. You just can't. You're just no. I can't tell you. He brings in Usual Suspects, regardless of Mr. Spatchy. Charles Forsyth says, I can think of a few twisty-turny movies in terms of murder mysteries, Death Trap, but Primal Fear wins the prize. Oh, wait, can't believe I forgot The Usual Suspects. Another one who's willing to overlook Mr. Spatchaman. Brian Mundo, Clue all the way. The Knives Out movies have been really good so far. And Dan Schaefer points out, I was inordinately pleased when I got the home video version of Clue with all 3 endings and found out that the one I had seen in the theater was, quote, how it really happened.
Yeah, because I went to 2. I could only find 2 out of the 3 theaters. I actually had to go to theaters to find the endings.
Oh. And once again, trudging in from where he has been hunting the mighty walrus and building his igloo
on his moose.
Vince, on his majestic moose. Vince. I was really surprised by Memento, by the conclusion and how it was set up. It keeps you off balance, and I had no idea how it was going to be resolved. I'm not a great fan of mystery or detective stories, and this film really gave the genre a new twist. The same could be said of The Mechanic, but less so. The Mechanic.
That's the one where Christian Bale loses 150 pounds of his 200-pound weight.
I
never saw it.
I didn't either. That's right.
It looked really unpleasant.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well,
and then he after that went to do Batman. So he gained 200 pounds. So what did he do?
He strapped another actor to his body?
He ate Robin.
That explains a lot.
That's why there's no Robin in those films.
Oh.
It's a little-known Hollywood truth.
Mike, what about you? What's your favorite twisty-turny, upside-down cake whodunit?
Well, and we've discussed this whole can you watch it, can you appreciate it thing in the past. And it's been 235 episodes. I can't remember. Did we do an episode on Usual Suspects?
Yes, we did.
I thought we did. So see our previous episode on Usual Suspects. I adore Usual Suspects because for me, I am not somebody who goes into a whodunit trying to guess.
I'm always wrong.
Well, it depends. If it's not a very good film, I will try and guess because I'm bored. But otherwise, I'd rather be surprised. I don't want to prove I'm smarter than the filmmakers. And Usual Suspects really blindsided me. I had no idea that what was coming was coming. And even better, and I'm afraid this is the last time this has happened, after the movie, the people I went to see it with stood out in the parking lot for the next 2 hours discussing the film.
Wow.
Because it was that interesting. So I am a big fan of Usual Suspects, but I also dearly love Charade. I have watched that film many times. It's very charming. See our previous episode in Charade? Because I think we did. I think it's one of our favorite
I think we did, yes.
It's, okay, there's a little bit inappropriateness with...
Cary Grant.
Cary Grant and
Audrey Hepburn, yeah.
But they're both so lovely in their roles, and it feels like Europe in the 60s, which it is, because some films do, some films don't. And I probably didn't see the original ending coming, so those are my 2 favorites. But this was my question, so what's your answer?
Well, I like Usual Suspects, but honestly, if I had to go with a favorite whodunit, I'd say it's The Long Goodbye with Elliot Gould.
I've never seen it.
He's a very interesting take on Philip Marlowe.
Oh.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I guess hearing the title, I thought it was some sort of romance.
Yeah. It's just so odd and quirky, and he's just... Watching him being interrogated by the police, and he's stolen the fingerprint pad, and he's painting his face black. Just as this weird, he's not doing minstrel or anything. He's just painting his face black. And I think at one point he looks at one of the cops and goes, "Okay, now you're gonna beat me up because I'm black."
Oh, so he kind of was doing blackface.
Kind of.
Okay.
But also he's just screwing with them. But he's so laid back about it. I also love the fact that his cat will only eat this one brand of cat food, and he can't get it, so he takes an empty tin of it and is filling it from another one, and the cat still knows, and he doesn't understand why.
Maybe scent and taste.
Yeah. It's very unusual. I never saw the ending coming. I think it's really cool.
Interesting. Well, that's awesome. Thanks.
And thank you all. All these were terrific answers and very, very well thought out, very well presented. Just what we've come to expect from our listeners.
But if you want an A for the quarter, what are they going to have to do?
Well, if you want an A for a quarter, you're going to have to see me after class.
No.
Bow, chicka, bow, 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 chicka,
No.
bow, wow.
No.
But
we do not bow, chicka, bow on this show.
Yeah, it is me, Karl Hungus. Ich bin ein Expert.
Oh, dear gods, no. Put your Big Lebowski away and give us next week's poll question.
Yes, we'll tell you how to answer later, but this next poll question is, somewhat inspired by this movie, who is your favorite, if any, athlete turned actor? Or do you think athletes should just stay in their lane? And I'm counting Andre the Giant in this. Yes, I am counting professional wrestlers, because even though it's not a sport, they are certainly athletes. And you can tell us, well, we'll let you know at the end.
Unless your answer is O.J. Simpson, in which case.
Yeah, we don't want to know.
Yeah.
In which case, also, I think you may need to speak to somebody. But now, let's get to
The facts.
budget. $16 million. Worldwide gross, you want to take a shot?
Worldwide gross, 150.
30.
Oh!
Yeah, this movie did not do well financially. We'll get back to that.
Oops.
This was, as I say, adapted by a novel by William Goldman. William Goldman, if you don't know, wrote a couple little films like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, All the President's Men, The Stepford Wives, and Marathon Man. Guys won 2 Oscars.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He's also an award-winning novelist. I like his books a lot. William Goldman came up with the title of the novel based on what his daughters requested in terms of ideas for his next novel. One wanted him to write a book about a princess. The other one wanted a book about a bride. So he coined the title The Princess Bride. Nice going, Dad. The Princess Bride is Rob Reiner's favorite book ever. Jeez, meathead. And I'm sorry, I know it's been 50 years, but he had to convince William Goldman to let him make it. Goldman was reluctant to let somebody else work with this book because it was his favorite thing he'd ever written. After watching Spinal Tap, Goldman knew that Reiner was the right guy to direct the film. When asked to name his favorite thing about making this movie, Andrei René Roussimoff, Andre the Giant, replied, without skipping a beat, "Nobody looks at me." He felt he was treated as an equal without people staring at him just because he was big. Mandy Patinkin has said the role of Inigo Montoya is his favorite role of the course of his entire career. And the man's had a hell of a long career. During the filming of some of the scenes, the weather became really cold for poor Robin Wright. Andre would help by placing one of his hands on top of her head. His hand was so big it would cover the entire top of her head, keeping her warm.
He probably also emitted a lot of heat.
Probably did. There is another adorable story Wallace Shawn tells when they're climbing the cliffs of insanity and he's being strapped to Andre's chest. Wallace Shawn has a crippling fear of heights. And they didn't have to climb high. They only climbed like 8 actual feet. But Andre could feel him shaking. And he apparently starts climbing with one arm, puts his arm around Wallace Shawn and goes, "I keep you safe. Don't you be scared. I keep you safe." Wallace was like, it was so hard not to cry. Robin Wright and Cary Elwes were absolutely smitten with each other during the filming, helping the chemistry.
Oh, my.
Yeah, Elwes said he couldn't concentrate on much of anything after that first encounter with Robin.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Now, Cary had kind of a hard time in this movie. He went off-roading in somebody's dune buggy and broke one of his toes. And when Count Rugen hits Wesley over the head, Cary Elwes told Christopher Guest to go ahead and hit him for real. Guest hit him hard enough to knock him unconscious and rip open the top of his head.
Oops.
Production was shut down for the whole day while he went to the hospital.
Well done.
Mandy Patinkin claimed the only injury he sustained during the entire filming of this movie was a bruised rib, and that was because he was holding in the laughter in the scenes with Billy Crystal. His attempt is really obvious if you watch his facial expression during his line, "This is noble, sir." In an interview, Mandy Patinkin said his most famous line from The Princess Bride, "Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die," gets quoted back to him by at least 2 or 3 strangers every day of his life. And he also said he loves hearing the line, and he loves the general fact that he got to be in the movie, stating, quote, "I'm frankly thrilled about it. I can't believe I got to be in The Wizard of Oz." You know what I mean? During the Miracle Max scene, he wasn't the only one who had problems. Rob Reiner and Cary Elwes had to be removed forcibly from the set because they kept laughing at Billy Crystal's improvised lines. That's not Cary Elwes on the table. He couldn't keep it straight, so they used a dummy.
Some would say. Oops.
Yes, and Reiner had to watch from a closed-circuit TV. William Goldman was on set during the scene in the fire swamp when Robin Wright's dress catches on fire. He knew it was intentional, but he suddenly freaked out and ran across going, "She's on fire!" According to William Gibson, when he was trying to... Gibson, yeah, that would be a different movie. Goldman, when he was trying to get the movie made in the 70s, there was this unknown big guy named Arnold Schwarzenegger who wanted to play Fezzik, and he was seriously considering him because he could never get his first choice, which was Andre the Giant. But by the time the movie was made about 12 years later, Schwarzenegger was such a big star they couldn't afford him.
He also I don't think he's that tall.
He isn't. He's about 6'2", 6'4".
I'm 6'2".
Yes, but he's a lot wider.
Oh, all right.
Rob Reiner and Andrew Scheinman recorded all of Andre's scenes on tape with Rob doing Andre's lines because Andre the Giant did not speak English.
Oh.
During the rehearsals, Andre would walk around with the headphones with the tape playing all the time. He had to learn the lines phonetically, but he did it so well they didn't even have to loop his dialogue. The Dread Pirate Roberts really existed. Bartholomew Roberts, also known as Black Bart.
Ooh.
He operated in the Caribbean in the early 18th century. A lot of people consider him one of the most successful Caribbean pirates of all time.
Cowabunga.
That was terrible.
What?
Black Bart.
The ROUSs, rodents of unusual size, were created with diminutive actors inside rat suits, in case you can't tell.
Oh.
Yes. On the day Wesley was supposed to wrestle the main actor, Danny Blackner, they couldn't find him. Finally, Blackner arrived on set with a long story about being pulled over for speeding the night prior on his way home from the bar and being put in jail for a few hours for drinking after the policeman didn't believe his story about having to work as an actor playing a giant rat. Funny he wouldn't believe that.
Funny.
In order to create the, quote, greatest sword fight in modern times, that's how it's written in the script, Cary Elwes and Mandy Patinkin trained for months with Peter Diamond and Bob Anderson, who between them had been in the Olympics, worked on Bond films, Lord of the Rings, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Star Wars. They coached Errol Flynn and Burt Lancaster. Every spare moment on set was spent practicing. Eventually, when they showed Rob Reiner the sword fight for the movie, he was underwhelmed and requested that it be at least 3 minutes long instead of just 1. So they added steps to the set, watched more swashbuckling movies for inspiration, re-choreographed the scene, and ended up with a 3-minute and 10-second fight that took the better part of a week to film from all angles.
Well, it was worth it.
They did almost all of their own sword fighting and their own stunts. According to Rob Reiner, the only stunt that Elway's stunt double did was the double flip during the chatty duelists scene.
Well, and one other scene that you already mentioned, it was a dummy on the table because
Oh, yes, he
Stuntman
was
couldn't
laughing,
stop
too.
laughing.
The names that Wesley and Inigo refer to in the duel are real fencing terms named after 14th and 15th century proponents. Bonetti's defense refers to refraining from attacking on uneven terrain. Capoferra refers to a linear attack, the best for uneven terrain. Tybalt refers to angular defenses, and Agrippa refers to natural short sword movements which cancel out angular defenses and attacks. There is actual royalty in this movie. I never knew this. Christopher Guest, comedy legend Christopher Guest, who plays Count Rugen, is actually a baron. He's the 5th Baron Hayden Guest of Sailing in Essex.
Really?
Yeah, the man's a nobleman.
I thought he was royalty because he married Jamie Lee Curtis.
Nope, that was sort of better than being
luck.
knighted. Yeah, that's fair. At the celebration party after the movie, Rob Reiner saw Christopher Guest and forgot he had been in the film. The reason he gave was Guest loses himself so much in his roles, Reiner didn't even think of the Six-Fingered Man as being him.
You hired him. You meathead.
Billy Crystal used his Saturday Night Live makeup artist, Peter Montagna, to create Miracle Max. Billy brought him photos of his grandmother and Casey Stengel. Baseball fans will know who that is.
Yeah, he was a
to help
manager
develop,
of the Yankees, wasn't he?
Yep. To help develop the look, and also brought in an uncle who had similar bone structure. Very thorough.
Yeah, the only reason I know that was on an episode of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. I get all my sports knowledge from the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Here's one just really I put in for Mike. According to Elway's, who wrote a book about making this movie, the scene where Inigo, Fezzik, and the mostly dead Wesley are on the parapet getting ready to storm the castle, Reiner said, "Let's film the rehearsal and see what happens." Right after Fezzik said the line, "I guess not very long," Andre lets out an incredible fart that lasted at least 16 seconds by one count. The noise of it was so loud that it shook the plywood set of the parapet and made the sound engineer have to take off his headphones. During this, Elway looks over at Andre and swears he saw steam rising from his head.
That's not where farts come from.
After the described symphony of flatulence was over, a stunned silence fell across the set. Reiner recovered and said, hey, Andre, you okay? To which Andre replied, "I am now, boss."
Except in whatever language he speaks, French or Russian.
French, yeah. Vizzini's advice on not getting involved in a land war in Asia is derived from the principles of Field Marshal Bernard L. Montgomery in a speech to the House of Lords. Rule 1 on page 1 of the Book of War is, do not march on Moscow. Rule 2 is, do not go fighting with your land armies in China.
Do not fart on the set.
Do not fart on the parapet. Do not bring a flatulent giant to the battlefield.
You paraquat.
The music in this movie is done by Mark Knopfler, as in Dire Straits. And Knopfler made a deal with Rob Reiner. He said, "I'll only do the music if you somehow hide the hat you wore in This Is Spinal Tap somewhere in the film."
Oh.
The hat is hanging on the door of the grandson's bedroom. I checked. It's there.
Okay.
This film tested better than every other movie of that year other than Back to the Future. Consequently, there's a bit of bitterness on William Goldman's part that it didn't make more money. He blames the studio for not knowing how to sell it.
Oh, Back to the Future 2.
Yeah, 2. And there's a ton more, but
that was a lot.
That was a lot, but I think that's enough.
Well, do tell us a story, Daddy.
I will. It's the age-old story. Girl meets boy, girl loses boy, girl gets an engagement of convenience to a prince/hunter, Girl gets kidnapped by a Broadway singer, a professional wrestler, and one of the two guys from My Dinner with Andre. Boy fights a cool sword fight, beats up a giant, and thinks a Sicilian to death to reach girl. Girl and boy go through part of the set of Labyrinth and fight a guy in a rat suit. Boy gets captured, boy dies, boy gets resurrected by Billy Crystal in 30 pounds of latex makeup. Castle gets stormed, professional wrestler self-immolates. Another big sword fight, girl gets rescued, vengeance gets served. Good guys win despite the fact they should have bled to death or something. I mean, how many times have we seen this?
Once.
The film.
Was that actually the set from Labyrinth?
No.
Oh, it could have been. I don't know.
It just reminded me of it. So, Mike, did you see this when it came out?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think I saw it in a theater. I think I saw it later on videotape. You remember that stuff?
Oh, yes.
Now you can wrap presents with it. I am betting, I'll bet $1 you saw it in the theater.
I did. I saw it right when it first came out. I've seen it a few times on videotape since.
Now, were you a fan of the book before the movie came out?
I was. I was a fan, and there's another reason for that, but we'll talk about that during the wrap-up.
It's not the play, is it?
Yes.
Then I won't mention it again, because that would be insane.
Yes.
So you've seen this film many, many times since then. And we often start with the cast. Do we want to start with the cast?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, it's, a few lesser-known people and Andre the Giant, but, if you really want to do them...
Andre the Giant is fine for what he does. He's there to look big and impressive. The only problematic scene I have is when he's trying to be menacing. When they've got him in the wheelbarrow and he's like, I am the giant Pilot Roberts.
Yeah.
It's like, no, they would have just started giggling even when he catches fire. It's supposed to be this terrifying psychological warfare, and it's just like, all I can picture them saying is, huh? What's that?
Well, that and, of course, the wheelbarrow is kind of a giveaway, but yeah.
Yeah, well.
So.
Yeah. So,
he's fine. I mean, I don't know what else you're going to do, except today you do CG, right? Which...
Yeah. No, it's not even the look. It's his reading. He's just not frightening.
No. So that's the main star of the film, but...
Yep. Well, there's Carrie Elways and Robin Wright, and my God, are they pretty.
Well, they are, so much so that I'm not saying she isn't now, but I did not know that was Robin Wright until the end credits.
Yeah.
And of course, this is her first big role because it says "and introducing."
Yeah, this was her first movie.
I mean, I would say the thing I know her best from is House of Cards. And,
okay. I also know her, of course, from, My Name is Forrest Gump.
Oh, she was in that?
Yeah, she's Jenny.
Oh, right. Okay. And she is very beautiful, and later would have the sense to divorce Sean Penn. Oops.
Yes.
I mean, I don't really know. Apparently he's not. Yeah, but whatever.
Whatever.
She was lovely in this. I don't think it's a particularly taxing role for her, especially seeing what she can do later.
She does not get very much to do in this at all.
No. We'll get to the character part later. Carrie Elwes, this is the only thing I know him from. I don't really know him from...
Oh, he's done it. Well, he's done a bunch of stuff.
I'm sure he has.
He's in Hot Shots.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah. He does comedy. He's done a ton of stuff. The last thing I know him from is because a movie our mutual friend Thomas is in as a panicked town person.
Oh, I love Panicked Town Person.
The Unholy, where we see that he plays a bishop or a cardinal or some priest who can almost do a Boston accent.
I see. Well, we've been down that road before, haven't we?
Yeah. Yes, we have.
Mandy Patinkin, a strangely named man. Mandy? Really? I mean, I think he even considers this his signature role.
Yeah, this is what everyone knows him for.
I don't know that it's his best acting, and I would probably argue that it's not, but that being said, if you can name one Mandy Patinkin wrote, it's this one.
Yeah. He does the job so well. He buckles every swash in sight.
And we could get this. Might as well do this now. The sword fight in the film, which I didn't realize was called the most amazing sword fight in the world in the book, is a pretty amazing sword fight.
It really is amazing to watch. I mean, it's pure stage fencing.
Sure.
They're all hitting each other's swords, but that's what's true in every movie. But it's done so well, and the music works really well for it, and I like the little banter back and forth. And, of course, one of the great quotable lines, I know something you do not. What is that? I am not left-handed.
Well, and here's the thing. Even when something's choreographed and you know it's choreographed, if it's done well enough, it doesn't matter. See every Jackie Chan film ever.
Yep.
Right? Because you know that there's no wires, there's no CG, there's none of that stuff. It's just Jackie getting the crap beaten out of him. And you know this because if you sit through the credits, you get to see him getting the crap beat out of him.
Yes, you get to see him being bandaged or hauled off to the hospital or, oh, look, and my bone is poking through. Cool.
I'll be back in 15 minutes.
Yeah, just snap that back in. There we go.
It doesn't matter if it's done. I mean, ballet is choreographed. Does that make it any less amazing?
Yeah.
You don't think those people just come out and do that. So when you see a sword fight this well done, it really doesn't matter if it's stagecraft, if it's choreographed. It's very impressive, and it is a very impressive sword fight. Chris Sarandon, is he related?
He actually was married to Susan Sarandon. That's where she got her name.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, she kept it. But no, that's the only relation.
Okay.
Yes, and Chris Sarandon is there.
Well,
and he's very good at basically being handsome and a jerk. The only other thing I know him from is Fright Night.
Well, he's got some competition in this film about that. Oops, we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Nobody in this film is taxed, really.
No.
Except one person. We'll get to them a little bit later. He's fine.
Yeah.
Wallace Shawn is Wallace Shawn.
Actually, Wallace Shawn surprises me a little in this movie. Who knew he could be menacing?
Yes, and comedic at the same time.
He's funny and scary, and that's really hard to do.
You might even say, it's inconceivable.
Inconceivable. The odd part is, this is a bit I left out, he was so insecure he didn't think he could do this part. He was sure every day he was going to be fired. The rumor is, and I have no confirmation, that he was the second choice.
Oh.
You know what the first was?
Orson Welles.
Danny DeVito.
Oh.
That would have been a very different movie.
I mean...
Hey, it's friggin' inconceivable over here.
Here's the thing. Danny DeVito's very good at menacing. I'll give him that.
He would be. Yeah, it would have been a very different character, but I think he really pulls it off. I like the fact that the moments where he's like staring down Fezzik and Fezzik is cowering away from him, and Fezzik is literally 3 times to 5 times his size.
Yeah.
And yet you believe it because Shawn is doing this menace, this presence that's really good. I
still, I can see why Danny DeVito would have been a choice because this is one of those rare instances where it's not I have anything against Wallace Shawn's performance, but I actually can see DeVito doing that. And it would be different, but it would be good, I think.
Yeah.
So,
but I think he's great. And I love the battle of wits.
Yes. Especially when he's telling him why he knows which drink it is. Aha! I switched glasses! Okay. We have Mel Smith, whom I don't know from anything, the albino.
He's a British comic actor.
Sure.
He's apparently was fairly popular over there. We got Christopher Guest.
Yes.
Who really, I remember going, that's the guy from Spinal Tap? Christopher Guest is a chameleon.
I didn't, because he had a mustache in Spinal Tap, didn't he? No.
No, he just.
Oh God, the guy from The Simpsons. That guy with the name and the thing.
Oh God, yeah, I know exactly who you mean. It's completely I'm completely blanking. Not Hank Azaria.
Not Dan Castellaneta.
No,
the other one.
Yes, the other one.
Because there's only 3 people doing voices on that show.
Yeah, he's the one with the mustache. No, he's Christopher Guest was Nigel Tufnell. This one goes to 11.
Oh, right. Okay. Very odd looking in that wig.
Yeah. He's also a remarkable director. He has that whole stable of weird movies, Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, A Mighty Wind. And he's
apparently Andre the Giant had a mighty wind.
A mighty wind, the Andre the Giant story.
I wonder if that inspired him to make that film.
There is, by the way, a movie called My Dinner with Andre the Giant.
Yeah. Now, I do have a question before. Well, wait. Well, let's get to Billy Crystal and Carol Kane. Billy Crystal in a role that will surprise you, because
Not at all. It's like, hello, I'm Billy Crystal. What did you think you were going to get?
yeah, and Carol Kane, who I honestly, now that I know what was happening, I honestly think looks like she too is having a lot of trouble not laughing.
Yep. She's lucky because she's got all those face prosthetics to hide behind.
Yeah, I didn't realize her character's name was Valerie, but there you go.
It is. He says it in the middle of one of the shouting matches. It's really hard to tell.
Yeah, and they let him improvise. Wow, it's a big let.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, so the one actor I think that really does stretch themselves really wide in a performance that I would not have expected out of them and have not seen before or since is Peter Cook.
Marriage! True love!
Now,
That is one of the weirdest cameos.
How did people not die during that scene?
I couldn't, when in the theater, I couldn't hear the dialogue for like 3 minutes because after that one word, the whole place was dying.
Yeah, he's very funny. But I do have actually a question before I bring up the next two actors, because I don't know if this is part of the book. So we've got Peter Falk and Fred Savage. Now,
Yes.
is that bracketing device in the book?
That's actually a very complicated question.
Oh.
It's in the introduction. The whole idea, why not? The whole idea of this book, the book is like a narrative within a narrative.
Okay.
William Goldman writes this whole story about how when he was really sick, his grandfather came over with this book by this guy named S. Morgenstern called The Princess Bride and read it to him while he was sick. And this is not true. He made it up.
Well, they say in the beginning, Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern. It's like,
That's a character he made up. Is S. Morgenstern.
Huh.
And the whole thing, because it's a big deal about him and his relationship with his grandfather, because his grandfather is an immigrant that doesn't speak English all that well, and when he accuses him of not reading part of it right, like when Wesley dies, that you read that wrong, the grandfather gets upset and leaves, and doesn't come back for a day or two. But
wait, in the book?
No, in the book he leaves. In the movie, he's just sort of annoyed. So
all of this is in the introduction, though.
It's all the introduction. Once they actually start the narrative, that's none of, except he interrupts it all the time. The narrator is a major part of The Princess Bride in the way that it isn't in the movie.
Oh,
yeah.
now, do you think that's a
very
loss?
different? Yes, but there's no way you could have done it.
Why?
It's too interrupting to have a narrator. It takes you out of it too much.
But we have one.
Yeah, but he's fairly minimal, and it's all just basic description. The narrator in Princess Bride is telling all these jokes and explaining the backstory of all the characters. That's the thing I was sorry we don't get. The backstory of Fezzik is just tragic. It's just very sad, and Inigo's is much more tragic in the book. The other thing is, the whole idea of this book is eventually, as an adult, William Goldman tracks down The Princess Bride, this non-existent book, and tries to get his own kid to read it, and the kid can't get through it. And now Goldman hasn't looked at the book since he was a kid, and he looks at it and he realizes his grandfather edited the book as he was reading it.
Oh.
Because most of the book is incredibly boring. It's supposed to be a political historical novel about, and it's like a social satire of 17th century or 16th century stuff, and it's so dull. And his grandfather, as he put it, gave him the good parts version.
Oh.
And that is the book Goldman claimed he wrote. He wrote the good part. And every so often he'll say, in this section, S. Morgenstern writes 15 pages about the princess's wardrobe.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh. Sort of like that whole chapter about knot tying in Moby Dick.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I can see why you'd say that wouldn't necessarily work.
Yeah. And the book, in a lot of ways, is a lot darker than the movie. That line at the beginning, when Wesley is reported dead and Buttercup says, "I will never love again." In the book, the next line is, "And she never did." And in the book, you're like, oh, God, that's horrible, until you realize later, oh, because Wesley's still alive and she still loves him.
Oops.
And even at the end, in the movie, they ride off on white horses into the sunset, and there's a makeout session, and everything's wonderful in the book. And as Goldman says, that's how he thought as a kid. That's how he thought the book ended. But the last couple of lines are like, this was before Buttercup's horse threw a shoe, and Inigo's wound opened up, and the woods behind them were alive with the cries of, "Get them!"
Yikes.
Yeah. It's a lot more open-ended.
I do find it really interesting that the author wrote the screenplay, because that doesn't happen often. I can only think of one other example, and it really surprised me to find out what it was.
Which one's that?
And that is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Roald Dahl wrote the...
Yes, he did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it was like, they did stuff to it a little bit later, but yes, he adapted it, which is because it's similar to the book, but it's very different.
Yeah, very different.
And that speaks of somebody who actually has got not only a very level head on their shoulders, but also understands the limitations of a different format or a different medium, because it's like, well, you can't do this. You can only do this in imagination. You literally can't do it's very much like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The entire book takes place inside the head of a mute. It's like, how are you going to film that? Well, we're not going to make him the center character of the story. Well, that's probably a good choice, because otherwise we're not going to have any movie. So that's really interesting. I did not know that. I did want to welcome a guest appearance by the Vulcan neck pinch, because
yes, I know.
Apparently that's what it takes to get rid of Buttercup.
I have it written in the Andre neck pinch as he knocks out Princess Buttercup.
Something you may not have known is that this film actually had a different title. They were going to give it a different title, but it's from the book. Yeah, the original title of this film was My Dinner with Wallace Shawn. But they decided maybe we'll just stick with the original.
Yeah, that was probably a good choice. I don't know.
Yeah. The sword fight leapt out, and I made a note about that. Is there any other scenes or elements of the film that you just said?
One of the things that really surprised me about Cary Elwes is how good he was at the physical comedy when he's still mostly dead.
Oh, right.
And they're like moving his head around and he's flopping his arm. I think that's hilarious. And I really like the way Mandy Patinkin does some of the more dramatic stuff with Inigo when he's praying to his father's spirit to guide him to where the man in black is. There's also some surprisingly dark messaging in here, which is much more prevalent in the book. When Wesley dies, and suddenly we're back, and little Fred Savage is saying to Grandpa Peter Falk, who, by the way, I want Peter Falk to be my grandpa, he's like, but that's not fair. And he looks at him and says, who says life is fair?
Where's that written? That was one of my quotes.
The man in black, before he's revealed himself to Buttercup, says to her, life is pain, Highness. Anyone who tells you differently is selling something.
Yeah, Wesley.
Ouch. Yeah, Wesley is, I got to say, he's kind of a douche in that sequence.
I use the word dick, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
When he comes back, it's like, why? He's gone off because once they finally admit to each other that they love each other and want to get married, he's like, I don't have the fortune to marry you, although it doesn't look like she has much of one either.
No, but...
So he decides to go off and make his fortune so he can marry her, and word comes back that he's met up, sadly, with the Dread Pirate Roberts, who has killed him. She thinks he's dead. And she hasn't exactly moved on. She's basically in shock and stays in shock. And when a prince comes by and says, hey, want to marry me? I'll take you to the palace and give you lots of money. She's like, I guess. I mean, seriously, we don't see her say that, but that's pretty much her. Yeah, okay.
Well, it's also in the book, he points out, hi, I'm your prince, marry me. And she says, no. And he says, if you disobey me, I'll have you killed.
Which
he could do. He's a friggin' prince.
Sure. But it honestly in the film feels more like she's just still sort of numb and she
going
goes,
through the motions.
Sure, whatever.
Yep.
She doesn't love him.
No,
but then Wesley comes back and he's pissed because she didn't wait for him. And it's like, I thought you were dead.
Yeah, for 5 years, man. This is medieval times. I could have been dead. You know what the leading cause of death was in this time? January.
And what's he off doing? He's off with his bros learning to sword fight.
He's being a pirate. Apparently, he couldn't, send her a letter or... a note and say, hey, guess what? I'm not dead. Be back soon.
Yeah. So that
always bothered me.
Yeah, me too. Because then he tries to make her feel bad. And it's like, how about you're a dick? Let's just settle on that. You're a dick.
Yeah, she's perfectly right to throw him off a cliff.
But then, of course, when eventually the mask comes off, twoo-wov.
Yep. Yeah, she spots it pretty quickly when he's just rolling down the hill and he does that as you wish. Like, oh, it's Wesley.
I mean,
really, the whole Batman thing fooled you, but...
let's face it, it took her that long.
Yeah.
It's not that big a mustache. And let's face it, if Wesley was going to grow one, that's about as much as he'd get.
Yeah.
I bet each one of those little hairs has a name.
Yeah, that's the problem with the mustache. I know it's trying to be Errol Flynn, but you just keep wanting to go, hang on, buddy, you got something. Let me get that for you.
Were you drinking my milkshake? Because I think that's what happened there.
Yeah.
There's a scene with Inigo that I actually really like, and that's when he kills the Duke of Dunder, whatever his name is, Count Rugen.
Oh, yes.
And he's like, my whole life has been revenge. Now what do I do?
Yeah.
Like, he's just like, I literally that's all I've been thinking about for the last 20 years. I have no idea to do. My first thought is, a doctor might be a good choice.
Yes. Some stitches, a blood transfusion.
Because he's like dying. He's been stabbed in the gut
In
once
the gut.
in each shoulder.
You don't walk away from that.
And then he gets up, kills Count Rugen, and then literally it's like, it's just a flesh wound. I'm fine. Like,
tis but a scratch.
And of course,
it's a movie wound.
Yeah, I guess it's a wound of convenience. I'm sure that's in the book somewhere. And then Wesley gives him, he's like, and I'll get to this because it's one of my quotes, but we assume he goes off to become Dread Pirate Roberts, and that's fine.
Why not? He'd be good at it. Yeah.
Why not?
I do like the fight with Count Rugen. I got to get back to Christopher Guest. His performance as Count Rugen, I think, is often kind of overlooked because it's so toned down
Compared to everyone else, yeah.
Everyone else is kind of, theatrical and over the top, and he's so quietly creepy. Like, you've been chasing me all this time only to fail now. I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard. How marvelous. Like, yeah!
Yeah, I will also say that he only does this because he cheats. And I think it's interesting that when confronted by Inigo Montoya, he realizes, I'm not that good. Oh, look, a cat!
He runs. He literally, when he first meets Inigo, his thing, they get into the poses that like they're going to fight, and he turns and runs, and Inigo is like, that's not how it's supposed to go.
Yeah. You brought up a lot, and time is strangely ticking fast. We should get to the quotes.
Oh, yeah.
So, did you do a website thing at all? Or?
I did not. Because it's not like top 5 quotes. It's always top 150, top 300. There are so many quotes in this movie. So we already did the hello quote.
Yeah. How many did you choose?
I got about 20, 30.
Can you cut some of that down?
I absolutely can. I always like this is true love. You think this happens every day? Probably some local fisherman out for a pleasure cruise at night through eel-infested waters. In the book, by the way, it's sharks, which sounds better.
But eels is more, who cares? Who knows where they are?
I always I could give you my word as a Spaniard. No good. I'd known too many Spaniards.
Ouch.
I am not left-handed. Get used to disappointment. It's not my fault being the biggest and the strongest. I don't even exercise. One I think is strangely timely for our day. Why are you wearing a mask? Were you burned by acid or something like that? No, it's just that they're terribly comfortable. I think everyone will be wearing one in the future.
Ooh.
Yikes.
And guess what? They're not.
Yeah, not anymore. Ever heard of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates? Yes? Morons. We'll never survive. Nonsense. You're only saying that because no one ever has. Why don't you just give me a nice paper cut and rub lemon juice in it? He's lifting up his... I've seen worse. Have fun storming the castle. Let me explain. No, there's no time. Let me sum up. Oh, this key.
So I've got 9.
Okay.
Can I get my 9?
We just do the one others. I want my father back, you son of a bitch.
Okay, that was one of mine. I have 8.
Okay, what are your 8?
You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
No one would surrender to the dread pirate Wesley.
That is a good one.
I swear it will be done. And which one you brought up earlier, Who said life is fair? Where is that written? Bow to the queen of slime, bow to the queen of filth, bow to the queen of putrescence. I've just sucked 1 year of your life away, which is how I feel after some of the movies we've done in the show. If he's all dead, there's only one thing you can do. Go through his clothes and hope for loose change. And my last one was, have you ever considered piracy? You'd make a great Dread Pirate Roberts. And we know the answer to this. Is this really a quotable? Yes.
Yes. Come on.
So unless you have any other final salient points about
let's go
this
to the
film,
wrap-up.
we should go to the wrap-up.
The finish.
So, Max,
Yeah.
you've seen this when it came out. You've seen it
Yep,
many times.
many
You love
times.
the book. You've eaten the
Yep.
breakfast cereal. You use the floor
I've
polish.
worn the T-shirt.
What do you think of The Princess Bride?
The movie, it's okay. I like it. I enjoy it. It is not, to me, it's not the transcendent experience it is for a lot of people. And I have a particular reason for that.
Do tell.
When I was in college, somebody, and I wished I knew who, before anyone knew about the movie, apparently the book was fairly popular. I'd never heard of it. These couple of kids in college adapted it into a play and performed it. And it is my one major regret in college. I had a chance to be in it, and I turned it down.
With a name like Max?
The guy who was playing Miracle Max and the narrator, Maxwell Morgenstern, was a guy who was in a vaudeville troupe with me named Joel, and he didn't want to do the part. And he was like, Max, come on, you've got the name and everything. Would you come and try out for it at least? Let me talk to the director. I don't want to do this part. I don't have the time. And I said, no, I'm sorry. I don't know what this thing is, and I don't have time either. I'm still, 100 years later, I'm still kicking myself. And the play was brilliant. It captured it's much longer, and it captures much more of the book. I think the book is wonderful. The book is funny. It's darker. It's very aware. It's a lot of fun. The movie is good. It just leaves out so much. It's kind of painful for me.
Because of the adaptative nature of it.
Yeah. I mean, I know it couldn't include everything in the book. Nothing ever does. But I think it's good. I just don't think it's great. What about you? I seem to remember you were not crazy about this movie.
It's email time. All right, so I saw this film at some point, and it was given to me as, this is a great film, which is always a bad thing.
Yeah.
Whenever you tell somebody how great a film is going to be, my little alert lights go off, and, there's a klaxon in my head. It's like, oh, God, here we go. And I saw it, and I was like, It's like, it's cute, I guess. I don't get it. I get it. It just doesn't reach me. Not entirely unlike last week's film, The Big Lebowski. I understand why people like it. It just does not touch me. Negative, it impacted on the surface.
Yeah.
And so I have not seen this film since then. And my opinion really hasn't changed.
Okay.
So some of my notes, the ROUS is somewhat lacking. I mean, it's a guy in a suit.
Yeah.
It's a suit. It's not a good suit. It's not interesting.
Yeah, it's not a great effect.
The sets are very setty. The special effects are not so special. The acting is okay. We've got a lot of amazing people in here, none of whom are really flexing that much. Occasionally, you'll get some people that are acting outside their usual, but it's not like we're looking at Oscar-worthy stuff here. The pacing's a little slow.
Yeah.
I don't think the film's that funny. The way it's shot feels very TV to me. Now, does that mean I think people shouldn't like this film? No. If you love The Princess Bride, good. I'm glad you have that special. It's like there's films that I love. Like there's no reason anyone should love Hudson Hawk. And I totally get if you don't find the film delightful. That's fine. And this is a very important lesson that we have to all learn. It's okay if somebody else doesn't like something you love. It doesn't change how you feel about it. right? Max still likes this film. He doesn't love
Yep.
it. He doesn't mind not liking it. Does not change that in the least.
Nope.
Now, if I sat there and berated him with reasons he shouldn't like the film, well, that's a different story.
Yes, and then I would have to pummel you savagely.
Well, you're going to do that anyway.
Well, yes, but I'd enjoy it more.
So
Oh, who am I kidding? No, I wouldn't.
I think it's
I couldn't.
stop. I think it's a C at best.
See, I give it a solid B to B plus. I think it's good. I just don't think it's great.
And that's fine. And I get the lines. To me, a bunch of quotable lines does not a movie make. I couldn't tell how we were supposed to take it. Is it because it feels very tongue-in-cheek, but not that tongue-in-cheek? I wish that the fantasy elements of the film had been taken further. And I want to point at another film that has a similar bracketing structure, which is The Never-Ending Story. And I think for a fantasy story, it does this better, even with special effects that are, in some cases, no more special than they are in this film. So it's okay. I'm going to stick with meh. And if you love the film, awesome. I am not going to try and convince you otherwise. If you want to state your own opinion, get your own show. Or go ahead and write us back. Address the email directly to me through us at maxmikemovies.com. It's fine.
Yep.
So-
Feel free to include some cyber anthrax.
Yeah. Huh? I'm glad I watched it again, though, because you never know. Sometimes,
Yeah,
you
sometimes
see a
it changes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and sometimes with your age, things change.
Yep.
This case, for me, it didn't. In case for Max, it actually brings him back not only memories of having liked the film, but this other experience that he'll never forget because of it. So awesome.
Yeah.
But we have
Yes.
a poll question to go over again and ways to answer, ways of remembrance.
Things of remembrance. Whoosh. Next to the prancing fluids. Who is your favorite athlete turned actor? Or do you think athletes should just stay in their lane and not bother the nice actors? And you can answer this in a number of ways that have numbers, and we will give them. Way number A is you can email us at maxmikemovies.com. This is also where you can write Mike and tell him he's wrong about The Princess Bride. Wrong! Wrong, Pat Buchanan. Method 2, you can find us on the socially mediatedness at The Facing Book.
Just say
And
social. Just say, you don't have to go into this thing. Social media.
No. There's nothing social about it. It's anti-social media.
That's where we get the answers to our poll question. Don't listen to him. Keep answering.
So you can add on Facebook under Max Mike Movies there every week. And of course, we have a website, maxmikemovies.com, where you can go, leave a comment, tell Mike what you really think of him. Tell me what you really think of Mike.
Are you saying I'm dumb? Is that
No.
what you're saying? Are you saying I'm dumb?
No, I never
Because
said
if
that.
I'm dumb, you're
Yeah.
dumber.
Oh, yeah?
And that might be a clue as to what we're watching next week.
Citizen Kane?
Oh, you are dumber. And another suggestion from our buddy the Weasel, one of the films that he seems to think is very quotable is Dumb and Dumber. And hey, I've never seen it.
Neither have I.
Really?
I know it's a Jim Carrey movie I've never seen.
That's amazing. Well, together, the Moron Twins will find out next week.
We're not twins.
It's true. If there are lots and lots of quotes in Dumb and Dumber, or
Yeah.
really it's just a film that we should flush.
This has been a co-production of The Voice of Max and The Movie Wrench.